Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons and the 2025 Guillermo del Toro masterpiece, Frankenstein. And we're going to add spoilers for Frankenstein in this content. Also, um, and today we're going to talk about are you the player creating ill-formed monsters, and you're simply ignorant of it. You don't know that you're doing it. So fantastic movie. It is this question. It is the story between Oscar Isaacs, who plays Victor Frankenstein, and Jacob Elordi, who plays the monster. Okay, now wait, Scott. Jacob Elordi isn't the monster. Victor Frankenstein is the monster. Okay, I get it. That's a cute answer. We've all heard that before, right? That the real monster is Frankenstein himself. Well, first of all, he is a monster, and the reason he is a monster is because he has decided to make human life outside of the purview of God's design. Okay, so that does make him a monster. But if you watched 2025 Frankenstein, you realize very much that Jacob Elordi is a monster, right? Like, he is absolutely an ill-formed monster, right? And actually, I guess that's redundant saying ill-formed monster. Monster really means ill-formed. But I like saying ill-formed monster. Let's keep doing that. Okay. All right. I think it's just more descriptive. It's not, it's a little bit redundant, but it is fully descriptive for people because the word monster has a lot of freight in it. We don't have our crowbar today, so I just want to make sure we're getting where we should be. So Victor Frankenstein makes an ill-formed monster. He does a terrible job of creating Jacob Elordi's, corpse person in this. Okay, and so that now we arrive at at that point where we have to determine, are we doing the same thing when we create characters, right? And so if you're doing this, you're almost certainly unaware of it. So let's determine who is creating ill-formed monsters with Dungeons and Dragons. Now, first of all, what does this mean? It means you're creating a player character without purpose, right? And this was explained in the movie. You're crafting a creature from a charnel house. This was extremely well described in the film. So there's this beautiful scene where Jacob Elordi is taken in by this. It's a collection of scenes by this blind man, and he teaches him to read. He feeds him, and he helps him, right, and gives him something to drink. Gives him kindness, right. And but then Jacob Elordi leaves and then comes back, and he says, "Hey, I know what," and he says to the old blind man, he's like, "I know what I am," and he's like, I'm a collection of parts from a charnel house. And I didn't know what a charnel house is. It's a place where they store a ton of bodies. Essentially, it's a mass grave in a building. It's horrible. But actually, it's not even a mass grave. It's just a place where they keep bodies until they can process them. So if like 20 people die all at once, they would send them to a charnel house. And it was a place where they would just hold the bodies until they could process them, until they had the time to process them, and send them to their relatives or put them in a potter's field, so forth, right? All right. So basically, here's the question: are you creating ill-formed monsters? Are the player characters that you're creating, are they created without purpose, right? Are they ill-formed? Like, they're not a master crafting from you. They're literally just scribblings and scrawlings, and they're ill-formed. Like, they're just ugly and disgusting, and they shouldn't exist, right? So first of all, let's get into it. Okay, are you creating ill-formed monsters? Do you play Dungeons and Dragons for fun? If the answer is yes, you are as bad as Victor Frankenstein, and you are creating ill-formed monsters. The purpose of Dungeons and Dragons is not fun. Only the most ridiculously useless dungeon masters and players believe that today. Okay, we've gone way beyond this, right? If you listen to Deborah Ann Wall, right, she's talking about she's like, she recently did a video on the official Dungeons and Dragons channel. It was like, there's 6 things that block people from playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I can't imagine another 14-year-old looking at Dungeons and Dragons and not being able to play, right? And her depiction of it is like, from the glass, from, you know, looking in from the glass and not being able to come in for fun. Who cares? Who cares? She's not talking. Deborah Ann Woll isn't talking about fun. This has changed her life. She crafts stories, right? She has this thing that I think, frankly, she loves even more than acting. Like, if you listen to how she talks about dungeon mastering and playing D&D, she doesn't talk as brilliantly about it as she does. She talks about it far more brilliantly than she does acting, right? This has become her purpose, right? And Joe Manganiello said that he was having elevated conversations with people who had used Dungeons and Dragons to transform their life and the society they live in. Like, just like when Dungeons and Dragons combined with Lego has a whole section on there how, you know, Dungeons and Dragons is being used to help people. Dungeons and Dragons printed a book that said how to be more Dungeons and Dragons, how to use Dungeons and Dragons to make critical decisions for your life, to determine the path of your life, right? If you are playing Dungeons and Dragons for fun, your player characters are ill-formed monsters. You are building them in a charnel house, right? It is disgusting. It is disgusting. It is foolish and ridiculous. It is not good. Okay, all right. If you create a character and you put the name on it, and you put the name on it second, third, or last. If you make one mark on your character sheet before you put the name down, you are building an ill-formed monster. Okay? It's just the way it is. All right? If you create a character with Dungeons of Drakkenheim, you're creating an ill-formed monster. Why? Because those guys were given a chance to have a D&D canon setting, and they actively dislike and disrespect D&D every chance they get, right? They're always, oh, hey, go play Daggerheart, right? These guys are carrying the banner for D&D canon, right? And they don't even care, right? They don't care, right? It's disrespectful, right? And I believe every single player character made for the Dungeons and Drakkenheim setting is an ill-formed monster, right? We need to begin now. Okay, now Victor Frankenstein, he was a monster, but when we create life with Dungeons and Dragons, we can do better. We can create beings of purpose, and that's what we should be doing. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider like, subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.